What's up, guys? Welcome to episode number 86 of the Always Race Day podcast. I'm Connor Ferguson here with Damon Helgevald. Before we get started, want to give a shout out to our presenting sponsor, and that is the Karl Auto Group. Damon, I was wondering if you've ever played a NASCAR game, PlayStation, PS2, the new ones, and drove backwards and smashed into everybody.
Yes, we did that all the time as kids.
Fun as hell, right?
Absolutely. The best waste of time you could ever have.
What if a maniac did that down the street coming at you and dented your car?
Well, I'd be more than a dent, but I'd be scared as hell.
Okay, well, the Karl Auto Group can get you a new one at the very least, and I'm sure the insurance will help you pay for that car. I don't know if it works like that dealership to dealership. I'm actually not too much of an adult to know that right now. But if that ever happened to you, trust me, the Karl Auto Group has your back. They get you set up, a new car, a used car, a clean car, cleaner than the stands at a Pennsylvania dirt track. That's for damn sure. And they'll get you right out the door as quickly and safely as possible. I love the adjectives I bring into these. You guys go down to the Karl Auto Group, let them know that we sent you. Maybe whisper it in their ear. I feel like it's a whisper week this week, Damon, but appreciate them for supporting us and everything we do on this podcast. So, you ready to rock and roll? Get into it.
Let's do it.
All right. Race XR today. This is kind of what I wanted to lead with because it's really gone through a couple of different circles just in terms of how positive everyone was when Race XR said we're going to bring North Wilkesboro back, right? And that was kind of a gradual lead up. It was kind of seen coming. And this one kind of snuck up on people a little bit, but XR and the Racetrack revival was not just a project for North Wilkesboro. They're now going to revive Pennsboro Speedway.
Mhm.
And that has brought plenty of positive comments. I would say it's a historic dirt track down in West Virginia. And I wanted to read this tweet from Johnny Gibson, if I can find it. Doing a bad job of finding my stuff here. Should have came prepared.
Preparation becomes key.
Yeah, and it might have been a post, but someone was talking to me about it. Johnny Gibson, World of Outlaws announcer, I believe Justin Fiedler mentioned it on Dirt Tracker too. He said something along the lines of in the 3 races he had attended at Pennsboro that the facility was the worst one he'd ever been to by far.
Oh,
Yeah, so that would explain a lot as to why it's going to be 2024 and not 2023, and they're already announcing it. It seems like a big project, but I mean, North Wilkesboro is a big project, and they've turned that already into a little bit of a thing. I
hmm
think it's cool to see these like unused tracks like revived. Um, I don't know. What are your kind of thoughts on it? I know there's limited inventory of tracks that already kind of exist, but don't have the things necessary to host races, if that makes sense.
Yeah, I think it's really cool that what RaceXR and their company is doing, going to get these other tracks, reviving these old tracks, and turning them into places where people want to go. I mean, for crying out loud, we're running an all-star race at North Wilkesboro less than 12 months after they reopened the place. So it's going to be really cool to see what they continue to do, going to another place, another facility. It's going back to our roots in racing, in my opinion, and that's where I think we've kind of gotten away from on all forms of motorsports. Is we've kind of gotten to this corporate America, following the money, all this kind of stuff, which naturally you have to with the sport. But on the same token, we've gotten away from what made racing great when we first started, and that's these short tracks across America, these little dirt tracks across America, and we're going back to places like that.
You remind me a lot of Chris when you say that. I was talking to you about why Chris loved I-80 Speedway, and the comments I'm about to make don't apply to I-80 Speedway or any singular racetrack in particular. Some of them apply to one of the biggest dirt tracks in the nation in Eldora, but I understand the grassroots thing. I really do. I think it's inherently important to, hey, Hobstadt is this random town in Indiana if you're not a racing fan, and it's got that dirt track there, and it's known as Hobstadt, and it's kind of rare you have the track known as like the city name, but like that city's famous for that racetrack. Somewhat like Knoxville, even though Knoxville's really grandiose or whatever that word is, right? Then you have events like Bristol, which big event feel to it. I think you need stuff like that to be unique, set yourself apart from other people. But when you talk about like grassroots tracks, facilities, everything above that line, you still want like things to work. When we went to Terre Haute, my dad went to the bathroom and he goes, I can't believe I just walked into that bathroom. And I said, what do you mean? And you walk in, there's just a trough. You're pissing in a circle looking at people across from you.
That's cool, in my opinion. Not like
the
facilities themselves.
I don't care too much about that. I don't care too much for it either.
Right.
You want to get away from, hey, it's so like run down, but like the racing's really good. Because I hate like hearing that. It's like, man, what if we had like this small little track and it's small in size, but it's super nice? Why can't we get that? What is wrong with that? You don't want to hold people to standards like that, but like hold them to a reasonable one.
Right.
And I know Terre Haute was going and is still going through like upgrades. So that's not a shot to them either. But like working Wi-Fi at Eldora, stuff like that,
I guess my biggest thing is I think about like Saturday nights, and I'm sure that's where Chris comes from too, is Saturday nights in Corning at Adams County Speedway, and everybody's going and sitting on the bleachers. I'm thinking about Friday nights at the Iowa State Fair, at the Iowa State Fairgrounds at their racetrack. It was always a cool thing. Webster City on Friday nights, Saturday nights, going to those tracks. The facilities themselves, to someone that is born on the grassroots side, the facilities, I don't really, I guess, care or pay.
There's less attention paid. Yeah.
I don't really care about it because I'm there for the product that's being put out on the tracks themselves. Even, going to Eddyville for all the years that we did, their facilities aren't necessarily top notch by any mean, but I do enjoy going because the racing is excellent and the people are excellent. And I think that's what makes our sports so unique itself, is because of the different venues and the different facilities. But on the same token, I look at it as it's kind of a back burner type thing for me, I guess.
Yeah. And I mean, as a kid that grew up at the nicest facilities in the world, like Talladega Super Speedway, grew up going to there, Kansas, Iowa Speedway, Wells Fargo Arena to watch Monster Jam. I just wanted to throw that. I wanted to figure out how to mention Monster Jam, and this was my grand plan to do it. I've been to nice places, I've been to not nice places, and I'm in the infield. I'm not in the cushy spots of the racetrack anyway. So I never really looked at the facilities like I cared deeply about this, but I know some people kind of do. The casual fans that, aren't accustomed to going to a dirt track every Saturday definitely do. So, it's everything.
But always gains. Let me ask you this. Are those casual fans that aren't going to a dirt track every Saturday, are they going to be the ones that go to a place like Webster City just on a out of a whim on a Saturday night just to go watch racing? Do they really care at that point what facilities are like,
I
or
think if you attract them with like a,
are they going to go to a place like a Knoxville instead, or an Iowa Speedway instead, and go watch races there as a casual fan? To me, as a casual fan, you're not going to go seek out some local track in Britt, Iowa.
well, I mean, it's circumstantial, right? If the national tour is going to come there, if there's going to be a big race there, if it's their Super Bowl and you live 20 minutes from it and your friend's going and you want to go, like, if you get there and you're pissing and facing everybody, it depends on how you like to piss. I feel like it's a position of power for me.
Yeah, well, see, I'd rather not be able to look at some guy eye to eye while I'm doing it, but I mean, I guess it comes back to nostalgia, right?
We'll have to try it sometime, like
No,
set get
absolutely not gonna happen. Won't try it.
all between us. I'm
Hey,
not saying we stand
listen,
and do it in
I
a bucket.
listen, man. I have no problems standing next to a man at a fence and doing the business.
Hey, you say
There's a
you say
risk.
you don't care about the facilities. I just want to test your theory and see if you're in it for the team.
Well, if peeing into the bucket's last resort, I'll hold it.
I was thinking there'd be a wall and like two urinals back to back, but you took it straight into no, Connor. I will not. No, we're not going to go to a room together and just do that.
It sounds like an experiment that fails.
I wouldn't want. Yeah, that's fair, Damon. I agree, but you can't slant me like that. You knew what I said. Let's see. Devin Moran. Some more late model news, technically, I guess, because we kind of assume XR would bring the Super Series to Pennsboro if that ends up going through all the way through to fruition. Everything. Devin Moran is going to Double Down Motorsports next season. That was Hudson O'Neal's car this year. Longhorn chassis, obviously, with that one. I don't know the car number. They didn't mention in the release. I would probably assume because the team is moving to Moran's family shop in Ohio, I believe. So I would think that the 9 is still going to be the number, but don't know yet. I guess we'll know when it hits the track in January.
I thought maybe I misread it, but I thought it was going to go back to like his dad's number of the 99.
Maybe that'd be cool too. I thought it was interesting. So he's not going to go, and I don't know. I don't think he's a normal Wild West shootout guy, but I don't think he's going to go down there. They said they're starting out in Georgia and Florida.
Interesting.
Wild West shootout again, paying 25 grand for 4 wins, 100 grand if you can take 5, and 300 if you can take all 6, and sweep the week down there. So that'll be interesting to look for. They are racing that during the Chili Bowl. If Kyle Larson hasn't changed his plans or anyone said anything to him, then I would assume to see Kyle Larson down there as well. So that'll be really interesting to kick off the next late model season, as we've pretty much just gotten out of this one almost. We might be down at Gateway Dirt Nationals too. I'm thinking about heading down there this year. It sounds like there's a lot of super late models going. Chili Bowl Nationals today came out. They're changing their tire rule. Hoosier said we're only making one singular 2. I forget exactly what the wording was. They're only making this set of midget tires. Here's the list, and here's what we're making, and that's it. And that's what you need to run Chili Bowl. And I know Alex Bowman said that he tweeted that GIF from Tiger King that said, "I'm never going to financially recover from this." It sounds like a lot of teams are kind of ticked because there's a lot of unused tires now.
Mm-hmm.
All I want to say is you have to end the tire shortage somehow in some way. Do I wish they gave more of a notice than 3 months? Yeah, but also it's a quarter of a year,
But is ending the tire shortage going to happen because now they're mandating new tires and everybody's going to have to go buy those tires?
It might take a little bit to figure itself out and shake itself out, but at least we're on a path to doing so. This is better than it was, especially, that late model rule, same type of thing. It's helped Kurt Schroeder because he's flipping new tires on almost every night because he has so many to use, and he's running some of the best laps he's ran in his life. Ran pretty well with the World of Outlaws late models.
That's because he's got to use them up, get them out of his shop.
That's what I'm saying, though, but that's helped him.
Yeah, but after that happens, they don't have them anymore.
Yeah, I don't think he's going to completely disintegrate, but in a small sample size here, it has not been completely negative. But look, the tire shortage has been going on since COVID, and this is like the first step anyone's really taken to softening that blow. The World of Outlaws in late model series, I think they had some specific tire rules that they did, but it really didn't do anything to change much in the long run, in my opinion. So at least now, you're seeing different series and different places go to these stuff. And honestly, all it can do is equalize the driver more, or the cars more. I don't know why I'm trying to phrase it so poorly. Like, I sound stupid. We call dirt like the last great equalizer, right? Like this would only theoretically get the cars closer to each other.
Right.
I think everybody wants that in every racing series you'll ever watch. So I wasn't shocked by it, and I wasn't taken so far back. I feel for the teams that are hurting for money, and obviously it costs a lot of money and doesn't pay a lot to go down to Tulsa. So hopefully that doesn't impact the number of cars down there, but it might. You got anything else for that one?
No, I don't. I mean, it's kind of beating a dead horse at that. We already know that they do a poor job of paying to go to Tulsa. So did want to add in, I did read in through Devin Moran's press release, and it says he will most likely return to his roots and pilot a 99M entry.
Okay.
So looks like he's gonna go back to the old days and go to a 99M.
That's not bad at all. That'll be fun to see next year. I'm gonna be waiting for the release of that paint scheme.
Yeah, it'll be good.
He likes doing throwbacks, so I'm sure it'll be something new and everything. All right. I was looking at what we have this week, and I'm just so excited for World Finals in that type of like points battle going into that. 16 points between David Gravel and Brad Sweet. But as y'all know, the World of Outlaws are off this week. And I was looking at stuff we could write for this week, and I wanted to get with Damon. And I figure we'll just give the podcast people a sneak peek here. This will come out next week, and I haven't even asked Damon. We're doing like a Q&A thing, like me asking Damon as a motorsports reporter about the NHRA and the season they've had. Damon, do you want to expound on the first question? I'll probably speed run a couple of the ones I'm going to ask. I'm not going to completely go through the script of what I'm asking Damon for the story, but just about, I asked Damon what this season has meant for the NHRA. They've had a few sellouts in the stands. They've had monstrous TV numbers. It didn't start out like that, but he said this is probably the most action-packed, like, away from track season they've had since the 90s.
Yeah, I mean, it's been a long time since we've really seen the marketing push from Fox or any of the television companies for that matter, ESPN or Fox. So seeing the off-track marketing there, seeing, you can go into these stores, into any of the motorsports stores and that are around like a Napa or an O'Reilly's and AutoZone, those type of places. You're going to see, Ron Caps's face. You're going to see John Force's face. You're going to see, some big names, and now Toyota jumping in as well. Tony Stewart jumping into the sport. And so you're starting to draw interest based because of bigger brands, and you're starting to see the marketing side really become a bigger thing again, like it used to be back in the 90s. In the 90s, we had GM Performance as a main sponsor, and then you had Motorcraft as a main sponsor, and you had, Castrol with John Force, and you had the U.S. Army with Tony Schumacher for the longest time in the early 2000s. And so this is really the first time since the 90s that we've seen the marketing kind of take place. And I think a lot of the reason we're starting to see more and more sellouts here at the end of the year, it comes down to the video game. I think it has a lot to play into it. A lot of new faces are getting exposure to drag racing, are getting exposure to understanding, okay, this is what it actually is, instead of just turning it on TV and being like, well, these are cars just going very fast in a straight line. They can play it, they can feel it, they can see it from their own standards. Plus, you've got more people going to national events now, and so you're starting to see more faces at the races that have never been there before. And so now they go home and watch the next week because they're like, now we understand it. And so I think that's where it comes from, man. I think it comes a lot from just marketing and the video game itself. But I think a lot of it's come from the outside marketing that we just have not had in recent years.
Obviously they've taken that big step and the brands are big. That video game is big. I hope they put more people in it, honestly. So the World of Outlaws actually today added like Kyle Strickler, Ryan Unzicker's real life paint schemes. Devin Moran's in the game now.
Devin Moran was in the game. I had him in mine.
Okay. They must have added him on that first update.
They might have. Yeah, because I had him.
I was comparing it to the first list I had, and I was thinking the same thing. But yeah, they're adding more drivers, which is always good, always cool.
They're adding more tracks. We just saw that they added Peevely too, right?
Peevely's coming like Friday.
Yeah.
So that'll be fun to play. And I know they're going to add Lucas Oil Raceway in November, I believe. End of November or December. Don't hold me to it. But at some point they're adding that racetrack. So that's really cool. Yeah, I hope the NHRA does that. I hope either that or this is, a game that they end up either updating or keep putting new ones out, whatever route you want to take. I know some people complain about that kind of stuff, but whether it's NHRA 2 or NHRA update, mega update, version 2A, I don't really care,
Yeah, I think that's got to be the plan moving forward. I can't tell you for sure that is, but I would like to think it is, just for the simple fact that you're missing a bunch of tracks. St. Louis isn't on there. Topeka's not on there. Brainerd's not on there. There's a lot of big name tracks that aren't a part of the game that have been in previous games. And so I'm thinking that they're looking at that. I think that you're missing a handful of drivers. Tony Stewart's 2 drivers. You would like to see them be in the game, especially considering that Tony himself brings a whole new fan base, right? He's bringing not only his dirt fan base that they've built around Tony Stewart Racing, but he's bringing his NASCAR fan base.
Isn't that weird how that goes into it? Like we're accustomed to video games in the olden days when we were growing up, and there was never anything missing. And today there's, I assume, like partnering agreements and stuff that end up not getting signed for whatever reason. And Husitz isn't in the sprint car game. James McFadden and Roth Motorsports.
James Madison's not in there either. No,
they are on a 2-game losing streak in football. It's been hurting me down the core. Yeah, and Tony Stewart's not in the NHRA game, and not him specifically, but his 2
cars.
Yeah, and that stinks. That's. You could have a Tony Stewart fan that got into NHRA because Tony Stewart's owning a team in the series, and this week he's racing Top Alcohol. It's sweet. We haven't covered that on the podcast yet.
Right. I guess.
So it's Top Fuel's Xfinity series. Is that?
It's basically the feeder series for Top Fuel. Instead of running mainly nitromethane. They generally run 90% nitromethane in the top fuel cars. These cars, the top alcohol dragsters and top alcohol funny cars, run a lesser version of nitro in their engines. Mainly, it's all methanol that they run instead of nitromethane. And they, with the dragsters, they have a blown or supercharged version of their cars. And so Tony's driving like a typical a fuel car, and it's pretty cool, man, to see Tony Stewart line up with Rich McPhillips and company and get himself into a top alcohol dragster. It'll be fun to watch what he can do. And he tested Leah's top fuel car last year at Las Vegas, so it's always fitting to see him get into competition. But here's the thing: it's no shoe in. I mean, there's 20 top alcohol dragsters that are going to be out there, and they only take 16 into the big show. So he's going to have to drive, and he's going to have to be good, and he's going to have to get it from A to B. And if there's anything we know about Tony Stewart, he's a wheelman.
When they test, do they release the ETs?
They don't release them publicly for testing, but
what if that was just my journalistic career, was just finding those and releasing them?
Would be fantastic.
Like spoiling Travis Pastrana's best was a 6.1.
Well, I mean, yes,
he was getting out of the throttle. I'm
right.
I'm not saying Pastrana sucks. It's a hard sport. Like, I can't imagine, being so confident on a test anywhere to go full bore in a car where you're not even racing competition, and it's probably the most dangerous car to get in a wreck in.
Well, and that's why they generally do. So when they do the licensing procedures, like when Tony got his top fuel licensing, they have them. You have to start the car, and then they shut it off, rebuild it. Then they have you start it and then go through the burnout process. Then they shut it down and rebuild it. And then they have you start it, burnout, go, to basically quarter track, shut it off, rebuild it, half track, rebuild it, full length, rebuild it. And so it's a process to get it, because you got to get so used to those G-forces that are pressing into your chest.
Yeah, absolutely. I'll be interested to see how he does. I think I
am too.
Out of 20, I believe he can make top 16.
Oh, he's getting in a really good car. I mean, Rich McPhillips' team has been a national event winner. They've been top 10 in the points with other drivers that they've had in the past. Rich is a great guy. It's a great family. The McPhillips family are really cool people. So I'm excited for Tony, and I'm excited to see what Tony will do, and I think that it's just inevitable at this point that he's going to end up starting a second top fuel team at some point for him to get in and have some fun and play with, kind of like what Steve Torrance does for his dad, Billy.
Awesome. And then I'll get to this. This is partially the meat of the story we're going to put out next week. We'll talk a couple other things, and then we'll hop off of here. But it's been a big season for the NHRA. Is there anything they can do uniquely, basically event-wise, is what I'm asking? We're seeing NASCAR Euro is going to an ice race. They're having an exhibition like that. I'm not advocating for NHRA on ice. Is there anything the NHRA can do from a unique event standpoint that you haven't seen them done? The four-wide nationals are a great example. I just don't know if there's anything else that can be done.
I think there is, and I think we're seeing it in Dallas right now. Whenever Dallas hosts their event in October, they call it the Stampede of Speed, and it's like a week-long festival that starts the Sunday before, and it's a week long where it's concerts leading up to the racing weekend. There's a whole bunch of things going on during the day, Monday through Thursday, and then when they get to Friday, qualifying starts, and Friday night qualifying session, they pay like an extra $10,000 to each fastest qualifier in that.
I saw that. Yeah, I saw that going on. I didn't know it was big.
Yeah, it's that nobody else does it. No one else gives off an extra $10,000, and so they make it a big spectacle, and have a really big show on Friday night as part of their Stampede of Speed. So really, I think more of those type festival events. Doesn't have to be a week long, but create more of those festival type events, I think is the biggest thing.
That's not very grassroots of you.
Well, I mean, it isn't. It is and it isn't. You think about your grassroots, and that's where those local bands get started, right? You see
Yeah.
them sitting out front before the race gets started.
Yeah, and
That's what they
they
do.
end up at Coachella and stuff, and then the Coachella organizers taking on your favorite NASCAR event next year, and everything comes full circle for you.
Yeah. See, there you go. Got it all covered. No, I think those bigger festival type events, doesn't have to be every race, but there should be a little more pomp and circumstance at a racetrack like Las Vegas, or a little more pomp and circumstance at a racetrack like Indianapolis, which there already is. I mean, you don't have to sell the casual fan to Indianapolis because they're already going to go because it's the biggest race of the year.
Right, absolutely. All right, Saturday, 11:45 Central Time. I'll be at the Jack Trice Stadium press box, and I'll have this pulled up on my laptop because it's the single most important NASCAR qualifying session of the past 5 years. I truly believe that. Uh, Martinsville, what do you think? What do you think is going to happen? Who's your favorite to win? And I don't even want to pick a favorite. I want to just sit here and pick Chase Elliott, but I don't know if I can with how William Byron did there. Who's your guy? What do you think we're going to see?
Uh, it's so hard. I don't know what the weather is going to be like out there yet.
You want me to tell you?
Yeah, that'd be ideal. It kind of make a little bit more of a decision that way. But just knowing what we know about this car on a short track, it kind of, I mean, it really doesn't matter whether or not it's cold or not. These cars just suck on short tracks. Can't pass on a short track. And
Why do you have to be so negative when you analyze the new car?
sorry, it's a bad it's a bad design on a short track.
All right. Hey, 61-degree high, both Saturday and Sunday. Saturday, it won't get, I guess it'll be Eastern time, so it'll be 55 degrees or so. And it does not look like it will precipitate either day.
So about similar to what they had in May, probably a little bit warmer. I mean,
And yeah, in May wasn't like 34 degrees.
Yeah,
April?
it was. Yeah, it was cold in April.
Yeah.
I don't think we're gonna see tire fall off anyway, regardless. I don't think we're
You
going
might
to
see tires fall off, but no tires
right,
fall off. Yeah.
right. Yeah, we're not gonna see. We're not gonna see passing very much under green flag conditions without quite literally people being physically moved out of the way. And that might not even happen because one thing that they noticed with this car, because they're shifting, it's creating an air bubble between them. So once they get close enough, they can't get any closer than that to that point. And so it's creating a bubble where they are not able to get to the back bumper of a car next in front of them or behind them, regardless. And so I think you're not going to see a lot of passing under green flag conditions. I think pit road is going to be probably more crucial than it ever has been. Your pit crew is going to have to win you the race in a late race situation. There's going to be a late race caution because there always is at Martinsville. Especially in the playoff race, there's always one that just falls in that last 30 laps that kind of throws the whole thing for a loop. And so what strategies do some of those guys play? What strategy does Christopher Bell and Chase Briscoe kind of play at the end of a race there? That's going to have to force the hand of a Chase Elliott. That's going to have to force a hand of a Denny Hamlin, Ryan Blaney, William Byron, who are right on the edge of the cut line. Because if Briscoe and Bell stay out and those guys all pit, well, now that just shuffles around the whole playoff grid, and there's a chance that Bell wins the race because he's got track position. So it's kind of a catch-20. To answer your question on who I think the favorite is, I think it's hard to pass up William Byron going into that place. I think it's hard to pass him up. He's not in a must-win situation, but it's a must-win situation before going into the championship. And so I think that if there is a guy to come through on the playoff side of things, it'll be William Byron, in my opinion.
Yeah, and I like how you phrase that, and I'll ask you a question in a second here. Because in the catch-20 part, this very well could be a guy not in the playoffs winning it because he has track position. If you got nothing to lose, you're not in the playoffs. Why in the world would you pit instead of trying to win the damn race, right?
Right.
I think we see that more with this race and in this car and in what we think is going to happen this week. And now it's NASCAR. Things change on a dime. We've been dogging on this race. We aren't the only ones. It could not stink. We'll see. They've put the necessary backstory things in, like with the playoffs and stuff, and having it be the last elimination race that, here's every chance you have to not suck. We'll see what happens. But in my opinion, this will be the ultimate test, at least of the playoff teams, of who is the best crew chief in the garage.
Yeah, and I don't think you were talking about the qualifying session itself. I don't think the qualifying order per se is going to be important, but I think it's going to be pit road selection. That's what's going to be important in this.
Yeah, and they do that by qualifying speed, right?
Yes.
Yeah, so I don't know how to judge. Can you send me a detailed graphic of your power rankings for which spot's the best?
I mean, at Martinsville, I think the number one stall is the best stall.
But once you get to 2, it's like that one's not like the second best, you don't think, right?
No, because you're behind.
That's what I want. I want a power ranking.
Oh.
1-1.
I'd have to go back and watch
17.
You'd have to go watch the last 20 races that's been ran there and how they come off pit road.
You act like you have a college sports team to coach or something.
Exactly. I got all this free time,
Maybe I'll ask Pockrass too. We'll see.
He might actually have the answer already for you.
But yeah, so that's going to be interesting. Can Alan Gustafson live up to his name? Is Byron's Fugel?
Yeah, Rudy Fugel.
Yeah, I would think Rudy Fugel is going to be good again. That's why William Byron won the first one. So, sorry, I'm brain farting all day today. So I didn't know that off the top of my head. But yeah, I really do think that I'm going to end up dogging on a crew chief. I just know it. Just from how that race went the first time. Because we were sitting there at the end of the second stage. We're like, why are you pitting?
Right.
For someone. I can't even remember.
I mean, I think a lot of it's going to be who gets the best gas mileage all day. I mean, I don't expect tires to fall off. Obviously, you're going to have to change them. This isn't like Lightning McQueen deciding to go without tires the whole race, but you're going to have fuel, going to have tires at some point. So it's when do you do it and how strategically do you do it?
Absolutely. And it's not for the casual fan, but those races can be fun. So if it turns into something like that, I'm not going to whine about it.
The race itself's still going to suck if it does, but
if it's a strategic battle like that and it looks like a 0-0 baseball game that goes for 18 innings, I'll like it.
I mean, if there's no on-track passing, though, you think that's better than
don't misconstrue me. I'm just saying I will I'll find a silver lining if there's some
strategy. It can still be a 0-0 baseball game and each team have 5 errors.
It's difficult to make it 0-0 with 5 errors.
I agree. It's very difficult, but it's capable.
All right. Well, I appreciate y'all tuning in. All we got this week. Slower week. Next week's World Finals. Gonna be fun. Might get a special guest on the show. I'm working on something, and a couple big stories coming out next week from us too. Not breaking news-esque, but a couple I've been working on that I really think you're gonna enjoy. So hope you enjoyed this one. We'll be back Sunday night, hopefully after Martinsville. Break that down, figure out what we just watched. We're going to have a weekend. So appreciate y'all tuning in. Shout out to Karl Auto Group for sponsoring, and enjoy it. Go out and enjoy the weather. I think it's supposed to be another nice weekend. So have a good one, y'all.